Hello, ladies, and welcome to the Zoom, our first WE online conference. I just want to welcome you all. As more people are coming, I will, let me give you the opportunity. I'm just going to kind of do an introduction and not unmute anyone at the moment. So I just want to say a really big thank you for everyone being here. I spent the whole day today making sure that it works on Facebook, and I think the internet is playing up a little bit this afternoon. Why it is, I'm not too sure, but I am loading it back to Facebook once again. And so let's see how it goes. But I just want to say a really big welcome to everyone. Let me make sure that I'm seeing myself somewhere else as well. And I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, it's unresponsive at the moment. Okay. So I will try and make that work in a minute. So yes, so this is the first WE online conference. And I must tell you that it's been such a learning curve. And for anyone that does not know me, my name is Tokunbo Shumbayo. And I'm the founder of Women Elevating Women. And I'm here, I'm just waiting for one of my co-hosts. She's not here at the moment, but I hope she will get through. So yes, so Women Elevating Women, it's just an amazing group of women. And those who have been to our live events before, you would know that it's always an exciting time. Now, for me, when we came into January, I'd already kind of reached out, got a beautiful venue that we were going to use in London. And then suddenly the pandemic hit. I'm going to keep on trying to log on to the live. I'm not sure why it's not. It had been quite good. So, because I tested it all morning and it was working. So I'm surprised why it's not coming on now, but I'll see what's going on. Let me just close a few of them and kind of start that again. Okay. So please bear with me. Let me kind of get this live going on Facebook. Why it's not, I'm not too sure. Okay. So I'm not sure if it's the internet that's creating that bit of a challenge in between. And as we wait for more people to come on, I really wanted to have it in Facebook. So yes, so anyway, let me kind of introduce what Women Elevating Women is all about. As you know, I've been running Women Elevating Women now. This is the sixth year. And I run it as a live event twice a year. The focus is on the entrepreneurial woman. When I first started it, it was just for business women. But over the years, I've actually added life. And what do I mean by life is that everything that's happening in the life of a woman, including business being our main focus. But I've realized that when you are running a business and you're not actually looking at your whole life around your business, then a lot of people end up actually kind of struggling in business. A lot of women struggle in business because they're trying to juggle a business, they're trying to juggle family, if they have family, trying to juggle their own lives. The things that they've gone through in life is also part of what their business would become. So, you know, for example, somebody who grew up, I'm just looking at who else has come in, and I will admit Debbie. So yeah, so anyone else that's joining, I am waiting for someone who is supposed to do the admitting. So Debbie, we practiced it this morning, and now I'm finding that I'm struggling to get. Hi, Debbie. I can't just get onto the Facebook Live. Why? I have no clue. So I'm going to give it a try again to get into the Facebook and do it there. Sorry about that. If not, we will just go on and I will get Debbie to start speaking while I kind of work out how to get it on live. I've done it like 4 or 5 times today and it all worked out. So I'm not sure if my phone's being close to me is interrupting my, so let me get it out of the way first for just for a second to not see if I've got too much data working around here. So, Wayne, could you put that over there for me? Sorry, you might hear me, just put it on that side and let me see if, because I don't even know why. It was working extremely well today. But anyway, so I'm just gonna kind of go on from here. Okay, yes, Marian is, let me admit Marian, and she's my co-host. So Marian, I'm gonna just put you as the co-host. Yeah, make co-host. Yes, okay. So Marian, I'm gonna kind of get you as the co-host. Can you see me? Wave if you can. You can see her looking up at me. But yes, I'm not sure if she can hear me. Marian, okay, let me put you on. Just a second, everyone. She's on, asked to unmute. Unmute yourself, Marian, please. Yeah.
I couldn't hear.
Okay.
I can hear now.
Okay, perfect. So the internet going live on Facebook, I have no clue what's going on at the moment. I've been testing it all day. It has worked and the internet it's just rolling. So once Debbie gets started, I will kind of work on that. But I just wanted to thank everyone. We have over 50 women that are signed up for our event. Some are going to join us today and some will join us tomorrow. But that's an amazing number. Why? Because as at May, I was still thinking, what am I going to do? Am I going to cancel the event for June altogether? I did not even want to think about going online and having an online conference. Not because it can't be done, just because I've never done it before and I was scared. So, you know, if you're like me, I believe that everyone has something that they've been scared about. And I tell you, Zoom has been my number one thing. I remember I did a Zoom session with Ariane, and she's one of our speakers. She'll be speaking tomorrow. And she called me up and said, let's do a Zoom in the group, which we did. She was the one that handled everything. So that is telling you that I've been so scared of doing this and failing. And I didn't really want to go into that. But I've been jumping on a lot of Zoom calls, one-on-one, but actually doing something big like this, I was like, no, I'm not gonna give it a go. But a lot of you are gonna hear me talking about my Christianity. And I've learned not to separate it anymore. But also I do respect every other person's beliefs. This is not a Christian group. And but I cannot separate who I am from what I do. And for a long time, I did try to do that in the Women Elevating Women community. But then I found that I was not showing up. I was not being authentic. And it was, you know, it was really dragging on me, or, you know, I don't know the word to use, but it was very hard for me for a very long time. And I think it was early this year that I sat down, looked at myself and said, I can't separate believing in God. I can't from what I do, because there's a lot of things that I do in my life that is centered around that. And this is one of them, because when, you know, I was having that quiet time, just, you know, reading my Bible in the mornings, which I do. And the Lord just said to me, host it online. I was like, no, that's not happening. I'm not hosting it online. But, you know, with a little bit of, you know, fatherly love, I said, okay, let me give it a go. And that's where we are today. I'm not going to go into that because I will be talking about the whole journey, how to set up the, you know, what I'd done and got us to this point. Now, what I've learned is that there's always technical issues about different things. So Marianne, if you see anyone that comes in, could you just admit them, you know, from time to time. So yeah, so that's why we are here today. So we're having my first online event, and anyone that has ever come to Women Elevating Women live events, we have loads and loads of fun. Tomorrow, I'm going to put a little bit of that fun in here. It's not going to be as much. I'm trying to keep this as light as possible because it's my first one. You know, after this, I believe that all the things I've learned, I'm going to put them together, and then we're going to have another live event that's also going to be awesome. speakers as well, but we're also going to have a lot of in women elevating women in the community. We're going to do a lot of online classes. There are so many women with lots and lots of expertise in the group. But I had been that little roadblock because I was scared of doing Zoom. But now that I've kind of broken that one, I will now kind of get on with it and let us start elevating each other. Okay? So that is me. And like I said, if you don't know me, I'm Tokunbo Shumbayo. I'm the founder of Women Elevating Women. I am a life empowerment life guide. And I changed myself from coach to guide because I want to incorporate 4 different areas in which I work with people: coaching, mentoring, training, and giving advice. And so I've brought all of them into what I do. And that's why I changed it to being a guide. And you will hear a lot more of that when I take on my own session. So today we have a few speakers. So we've got Debbie, who's already here. We've got Caris. Caris is here, but I think she's put herself on off the video. So, and we also have Katrina, who will be joining us at 4:30. So today the first speaker is going to be Debbie. Now, we are going to be muting you most of the times. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat section. We will be checking it from time to time. Also, I've got a little session called the Business Shout Out. If you would like to take part, and it's just giving you like 2, maximum of 3 minutes for you to introduce yourself, introduce your business, and tell us where you are. So you can just put that also in the chat section and say, I want to do a business shout out. And we have that little session for you to do that. So at any point in time, if you do want to take part, we've already got 2 people who will be doing that, but they'll be doing that on Saturday. But if you want to do a business shout out today, just put it in the chat section and we'll give you that chance to come introduce your business, what you do, and how you can help people. Okay, so that's basically everything. I'm going to try and give this Facebook Live another try, and take it from there. But there was something that I wanted to do, and I'm just going to do it very quickly. It's just going to be 1 second of your time. And like I said, if you believe it, if you don't believe it, it's all right. This is more me and my personality. So I'm just going to put a tiny little bit of a word of prayer into everything that we are doing. So I'm just going to say, Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for this opportunity you've given me and the ladies that are here. I ask that you help us in this season. This is something that I'm doing for the first time, and I have relied on you from the very beginning. I ask that everyone that comes in here, whatever they've come in for, that you will meet them at their own needs in their own way. I don't know what it is that anyone needs, but you that have brought everyone here, I ask that you help them. I pray in Jesus' name. So it's just my little one. Okay, so I am going to give that a try. Debbie's going to come on in 2 minutes time. So Debbie, are you ready? Okay, all right. So in 2 minutes, we're going to kind of unmute you, but I just want to give that Facebook a little bit of a try again and see why I'm not getting the Facebook. I'm not sure if I was supposed to go live on Facebook before I went live here. So that could be the problem, but I don't think so. I think it should just take it up. But anyway, no, that's a shame. Let's see. Okay. So I've still got just 1 more minute and see why it's not allowing me to do that. No, it's just saying the page is unresponsive. Okay, all right. We will figure this out today. I'm happy that I'm doing it for 2 days and we are recording it. So you would all be able to see it in the group, and Debbie's one is being recorded. So they're all gonna come into the group anyway. And that. So I'm gonna hand over to Debbie now while I kind of get out of the way. For everyone that's here already, I just wanna thank you for being here. And I'm going to hand over to Debbie. Now, Debbie is into wellness, as you can see. She's into, health nutrition. She's got a whole lot of stuff that she's doing. If you haven't, read about her, you would see it all on our website. And I've put a little information in on Facebook as well. So you get to know more about Debbie. But I'm going to hand over to Debbie right now and allow Debbie to take it from here. I'm going to kind of take off it. Okay, then, Debbie, over to you. So so you're unmuted at the moment. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And yes, it's my absolute pleasure to speak to you this afternoon. Thank you so much for inviting me on to speak. So my talk is about well-being and empowerment. But just to give you a little bit of background and information about me, just so that you know where I'm coming from. Mm-hmm. So I am a spiritual life coach, holistic well-being expert and author, which just basically means I wear lots of different hats. So I am a qualified nutritional therapist. I'm a Yasui and angelic Reiki master, a theta healing practitioner, and I do my coaching, mentoring as well. So I co-authored a book last year, which was actually a collaboration with 12 other women awakening on our spiritual path. But this August, I'm realising a personal dream and having my own book published, which is actually called Your Secret Power, and is very much about nourishing the body, mind and soul. So for transformation and self-mastery. So very excited about that. And my coaching, my writing, how I show up is very much drawn on my own personal and spiritual development, obviously the knowledge I've gained along the way and the experience I've had working with clients. So my talk is to help improve your well-being, empower you moving forward, post-COVID particularly, looking at boosting your immune system, improving your resilience to stress, and moving away from any sort of fear or anxiety that may be sort of niggling in the background still. So I think it's quite appropriate that I am the first speaker, because it doesn't matter what your goals, your dreams, your aspirations for the future, what they are, whether they're personal or business, it all starts with you. You have to be okay with you. And actually, what Combo was saying earlier about being authentic, being aligned to you, so important. But everything starts with you, and obviously the happier you are and the healthier you are means the better that you will show up and function in your day-to-day life, in your personal life, and also in your business life. So very, very important for that, and to attract positive things into your life. So I started out as a nutritional therapist. I qualified 20 years ago, and I loved the holistic approach to healthcare. I loved the fact that we looked at the physical with the body, but also very much the mind and emotions as well, because our brain is dependent upon a second-by-second supply of nutrients. So how we're feeling is very much our brain chemistry depends on our diet as well. But over the course of the years, although nutrition is very powerful, and I'm a very strong advocate for it, I think it should form the basis from which to build on, I have revealed over the years certain limitations have been revealed to me. I may have had clients that were already following a really good diet, but weren't making the improvements and the advances that I would have thought that they would have made. Obviously, we would have looked for underlying health issues, but it was as though they were blocking their own way forward. Maybe limiting beliefs were holding them back. And then similarly, I may have had people with actual health problems, quite severe health problems, or just wanting to lose weight perhaps, who were self-sabotaging. They seemed to put everything in the way when I was making recommendations. So I very much came to appreciate that there is this mind, body, spirit connection. And this is what led me down a more spiritual path myself. And I learned Reiki, 2014, I learned Reiki. And if you don't know what that is, it's an ancient Japanese energy healing modality. And it's very gentle healing, but it's very powerful. So I've also much more recently learned theta healing, but over the years as well, I've done a lot of mindset work, and I now incorporate all of this when I work with my clients. So one of the real things I've appreciated, as I've said, is the power of the mind. We cannot underestimate the power of the mind. And we form all these sort of negative thought patterns and limiting beliefs as children. They're not based on truths, but we tend to carry them around even as adults. And it's all about perception. We base our challenges and our experiences now on these beliefs that we formed when we were little, and we can't know what we don't know, so we just are always comparing back to something else. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's true, but the good news is they can be changed. And if you're feeling stuck, you're struggling to move forward, but you are feeling resistance, you are feeling stuck, then it could be because you need to release limiting beliefs. And just to give you an example of perception, you could have two people that go to the theatre together to watch a show, exactly the same show. They could have both really enjoyed it. But if you question them afterwards, they'll probably still have quite a different experience. So, you know, exactly the same situation, but they've taken from it different things. And even on my own journey, I didn't always be a happy, upbeat kind of a girl. In fact, I was one of these that always sort of imagined worst case scenarios, a bit of a glass half empty, a lot of fears, a lot of self-sabotage going on, self-doubts. Blaming others when things went wrong. And while I've always had this underlying passion to help and support others with their well-being, I didn't really realise quite how much I needed to work on myself. So that's what, you know, I've been doing as well over the years. And we're always evolving and growing as far as I'm concerned. Funnily enough, Zoom has been a bit of a technology, and me are always a little bit like that too. So good on you, took on by four doing this. That's really massive. Now, another thing that I've come to appreciate over the years and understand is that it's often our biggest challenges that become our greatest learning experiences and opportunity for growth. Now, no more clearly has this been demonstrated to me than over the course of this last year when my husband was given a cancer diagnosis. So he has always been a very fit, healthy man. We've been married 33 years, and in all that time I've not known him to take much more than a painkiller, the odd painkiller here and there. And then all of a sudden, it seems, he deteriorated almost overnight. And then we're given a stage 4 cancer diagnosis. So there was a lot of shock, a lot of devastation at the time. And it absolutely threw me back into my default setting of a massive amount of fear of all the what ifs, all the worst case scenarios. So I had to work through that myself. And I do believe that by doing that, it has made me a better person in so much as having to live through that, you know, was such a big challenge, and I learned so much from it. And the reason I've mentioned it is because obviously with the whole COVID pandemic, there has been so much fear being reported across the news platforms, the media, but also social media, obviously. Lots of people struggling, lots of people very vocal about that. So there has been a lot of fear. The problem is, fear is a low vibrational state, and it massively affects your immune system. So at a time when we want it to be really strong, it's going to be having the opposite effect. Fear around our own health, perhaps, the health of our loved ones, fears around finances, our business, what's going to happen moving forward, all of these fears, but they're very low vibration, which will affect us mentally, emotionally, but also physically, and as I say, with our immune system. Now, if I'm losing you a little bit talking about vibration, let me explain. Now, we don't have to have any understanding of quantum physics, which is just as well, but to understand and know now that everything is energy. We are energetic beings and we are vibrating at a certain frequency. We live in a vibrational universe and we are all connected. So if we are high vibe, if we're vibrating at a higher frequency, we are feeling happy, healthy, vital, our energy levels are good, our focus, our concentration is good, we're attracting good things into our life. Whereas if we're low vibration, then this is when we can actually manifest actual physical symptoms of ill health, but we'll also be attracting negative experiences to us as well. Now, 20 years ago, when I qualified as a nutritional therapist, had anyone that talked to me about vibration or energy healing, I would definitely have raised my eyebrows and thought that was far too woo-woo for me. I would have been entirely skeptical myself. But as I say, it's through my own journey and realising that when I first qualified in nutrition, I liked the fact that everything was black and white. Science-backed, that completely suited me. But I've grown and evolved over the years, and I realised that sometimes there are things that we cannot explain. And so this is what's led me down this other path. And Reiki itself actually translates as universal life force energy. And this is what we have inside of us. Now, in the West, we think we have 5 senses, but we're actually 6 sensory beings. In Japan, they refer to it as ki, which is where Reiki comes from. In China, it's chi. And in India, it's prana. And they know that there is this inner life force energy. And if it's flowing well, a bit like I've explained with vibration, then we are going to be feeling great. But if it's become stuck or stagnant, then this is again when we can manifest actual physical problems. Starts with you, and the first thing is awareness, to acknowledge where you're at. If you're already where you want to be, that's absolutely fine. You'll still get some benefit from listening to what I have to say. It will push you that even that bit further. But if you're not where you want to be, if you are feeling stuck at the moment, like you really want to do something but you're just not sure how and what's holding you back, then understand that just by acknowledging, that is empowering in itself, because that gives you the opportunity for change. So once you've acknowledged where you're at, so with my clients, I would encourage them to look at that first, obviously where they want to be, and then we look at what we can adjust in between to help them to reach their goals. So looking at diet, looking at mindset, looking at more sort of spiritual techniques as well. So it's all incorporated there. So the fact that I mentioned about our biggest challenges often being our greatest learning experiences, if you have really struggled during this very unusual situation we've just found ourselves in, then try and take some hope from that and some faith from that, that even if things are feeling a little bit desperate at the moment, and you might not know quite where you're going, you could end up looking back at this time in a few months' time and think, wow, that spurred me on to do. I mean, even again, with doing the Zoom conference, something that you wouldn't necessarily have tackled before, and now it's given you that opportunity to do so. So never think that if you're faced with a challenge, that it's not going to help you grow as a result of that, even if it doesn't feel very comfortable at the time. But it is about being in alignment. It is about being authentic to yourself. Again, over the years, I struggled to find my way a little bit because I also wasn't being authentic to myself. I was working in office management and reached 3 different office management positions, reached overwhelm on each occasion because I wasn't being authentic to myself. And it was then that I realised that I was being taught a lesson here and I needed to take note. If you're following a path and there is a lot of resistance and it's a lot of struggle, then it may be because you're not on the right path. Although if you're if you're following the right path, it should light you up, and it should make you feel great. I'm not suggesting you're not still going to have challenges, you are, but it's going to be different. You're going to know. You have to listen to your inner compass. But what is important to understand is that we are not our thoughts, emotions, or beliefs, or the attachments that we place upon them. This is very much our ego, and our ego is needy and it loves drama. It operates from a position of fear, of judgment, and of victimhood. And if you have any sort of feelings of resistance, fears, doubts, shame perhaps, you do find that you're blaming others or making excuses, then these are all indications that your ego is getting the better of you. It certainly did with me when my husband got sick, and I realised then that, I don't like to admit it, but a bit of a control freak. And suddenly I was faced with this massive situation that I had no control over. So obviously I could help and support my husband with the nutrition, with the energy healing, with everything in that way. But just the panic, the initial panic and not being in control, and that is the ego. The ego is also looking outside of ourselves for happiness. And again, that is not the case. So whether it's a new car or a new job or a new position at work, or a new home, whatever it is, it encourages us to, oh, well, we need that before we can be happy. But that's not true either. Happiness is an inside job. So again, ego is that voice in our head that tells us we're not good enough. It's that critical self-talk. If we have dreams and we've set these big goals, then it's the voice that tells us they're too big and scary and we can't possibly ever achieve those. It's all about, it doesn't want us, it's fear of the unknown basically. It doesn't want us to step outside of our comfort zone, and it's all about safety. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. We can't do without our ego, because at the end of the day, it's our ego that has actually enabled us to survive through the generations. Because if we were too laid back and totally fearless, then obviously we would never have taken threats seriously. So it is an important part of us. It's just about keeping balance and keeping perspective. And the same can be said for stress. Stress impacts people obviously in different ways, but we do view as stressed, we do perceive stress normally as being a negative and unavoidable part of our life, and we view a stressed person as being under pressure and can't cope. But obviously there are some people who thrive on stress, and in fact a little bit of stress in our life helps to make life interesting. So we do need a little bit. But like with ego, our initial stress response, the fight or flight response, is something else that has absolutely kept us alive again through the generations. Because without that very physical response, say prehistoric man was suddenly faced with a saber-toothed tiger, he would have been extremely glad of that instant opportunity to be able to stand and fight or run away. So a very physical process goes through the body. The blood thickens in case we're injured, the heart rate speeds up, energy is diverted away from non-essential organs to the muscles and the heart, so that we've got that extra energy. But of course, nowadays, often our stress is more mental and emotional in nature. So we still have this same sort of cascade going on, but we don't have the outlet for it the same, which isn't so much of a problem when it's short term, but when we have long-term stress, this is when we can have real problems. So we do need to make sure that we keep that in balance as well, that we improve our resilience to stress, because again, stress has a massive effect on our immune system. So again, it's an area, and also our energy levels, our concentration, our focus. So again, it is going to affect all areas if we are stressed. And then that can be compounded by a poor diet, particularly one that's very rich in sugar, in stimulants. Maybe you're surviving on coffees to get you through the day. Alcohol, maybe you're relying on alcohol to wind you down after your busy day, but all of these are going to rob your body of essential nutrients, and so they're not going to be helping you with stress when you're looking at the long term. So also obviously compounded by an excessive workload. Also, if you're not sleeping, bit of a vicious cycle there, because if you're stressed, you're going to have difficulty sleeping. If you're not sleeping well, it's going to create more stress. And then exercise. Exercise can be very helpful to us to help support our blood sugar balance, to help our immune system, to help us cope with stress. But if we over-exercise, if we're training for hours every day, then this can actually be a stress on the body. We use up, so many more nutrients, and this is why athletes can be very fit but not necessarily healthy, and they can fall prey to infections because they're not sort of aware of that, which is important. So stress is relative. It's very different to everyone. What may cause me to buckle may not necessarily cause you, but it is important to manage it, because otherwise you can end up on a downward spiral and end up in a position of overwhelm. And so self-care is important. It really is, and preferably before you've got to that overwhelmed state, because if you hit there, you can't make the choices as easily as if you catch yourself before you get to that point. So self-care, very important. So another way that we can cope with stress is to be more present. Now, we either live in the past, beating ourselves up for things that we've done wrong, or blaming others, or blaming situations for things that have gone wrong, or we're looking too far into the future. Now, I would definitely encourage people to set goals and sort of visualize the goals, and so sort of focus on them. But at the same point, you don't want to get so wrapped up in them that you miss the journey, because life is a journey. And also, obviously, you could be looking too much in the future because you are what we call catastrophizing. You are getting caught up with what could possibly go wrong, all the what ifs about what could go wrong, as I did. And what's it doing? It's robbing you of the time in the present, which is the only time you have any control over whatsoever. Mother Nature has no concept of time. Time is a human concept that was brought in literally to help us organise our day. But what has it done? It's made us slaves to time. We are so guilty of wasting so much of it, and we never seem to have enough of it. But obviously we all have the same 24 hours in a day. So practicing presence is really important. And a very easy way to do this is by practicing mindfulness or meditation. So I know I've had a lot of people that have said to me, oh, I couldn't possibly meditate. I don't have the time. But the funny thing is, if you do meditate regularly, you become more focused, clearer, more productive. So by allowing yourself some stillness, some quiet time, then this actually helps you to connect to your inner self again, or even something like reading the Bible, even something like that, that's going to just give you that time to just reflect, that time of stillness, that time to connect, is just so valuable. Another common thing I get told is, oh, I couldn't possibly meditate. My brain just never shuts off, never shuts off. I'll let you into a secret. Mine's like that too. But you're not trying to force your mind into silence. You're trying to allow it to settle naturally. So if you have thoughts, just acknowledge them and then let them go. But don't try and force your mind to be still, because you will find the complete opposite will happen. It's like if I tell you now not to think of a pink elephant. I can almost guarantee the first thing that's coming to your mind is a pink elephant. So this is, you know, why it's important to just not worry if the thoughts come in. And also, if you find it challenging, then just start with a 5-minute meditation first of all. Explore different types of meditation. Maybe a guided meditation. You may like it in complete silence. You may like music in the background. Whatever it is, whatever works for you, but do persevere with it. Otherwise, you could have a moving mindfulness. You could be going for a walk outside in nature, which is great to raise your vibration as well. But being really mindful, so really noticing the beauty around you, really noticing your feet on the ground, you know, how the ground is feeling beneath your feet. Notice your breathing, your heart rate, just the breeze on your face. Notice everything. That means you're really present in the situation. So life is a miracle right here and right now. So even if you don't have everything you want, I can assure you, you do have everything you need, because everything you need is already within you. So, you know, I encourage you now to just close your eyes and put your hand on your heart and just take a deep breath. And just connect to that heart inside your chest. That is a miracle. You are a miracle. So we can't necessarily change our circumstances. I couldn't with my husband's cancer, and we haven't been able to with this whole lockdown situation that we've all been forced into. But we can absolutely change how we react and how we respond to events, to challenges, to people is totally within our control, even though it may be difficult. And there's a quote that I absolutely love by the great late Wayne Dyer, who says that if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And that is so, so true. And our thoughts become our reality. So if we are constantly focusing on negative things, then we are going to attract negative things into our experience. Whereas if we are focusing on more positive things, and I'm not suggesting it's all about positive thinking. Nobody can think positively 100% of the time. We are human after all. But it is very much about learning that we can release limiting beliefs, we can move forward, we can connect to what's important. And I think if nothing else, this time has helped us to reflect on what is important, but it can help us moving forward. So however this has affected you, just know that it can be empowering now, doesn't have to limit you. So I'd now like to look at moving on and looking at the diet, how we can look at really optimising the diet to improve our resilience to stress, to boost our immune system, but very much for everything, for our energy levels, our focus, like I've said, everything really. So nutrition is very, very powerful. And I'd like you to just imagine for a moment that you've just bought yourself a brand spanking new high performance racing car, and you want this racing car to win the Grand Prix or the Formula One or whatever else those cars go into. And I can guarantee that if you're serious about it winning those races, you are going to be maintaining it so well. And you are going to be only using premium grade fuel, the best fuel that money can buy. Because you understand that if you want that car to perform optimally and win those races, if you want to give it a fighting chance, you're going to have to do those things. You're going to have to use premium grade fuel. Your body is that racing car. And yet we can be guilty of not really sort of understanding that and appreciate that. But if we want to fire on all cylinders, then we have to really take note of what we're putting into our body. If we are trying to survive on cheap fuel, then we're not necessarily going to be firing on all cylinders. So it's really important to optimize the diet. And a lot of it is just common sense. A lot of it is just healthy, natural, whole foods, unadulterated whole foods. These are the foods that also carry a high vibration. So your fruits and vegetables, particularly think of a rainbow of colours. I like to say eat the rainbow. So lots of variety. You'll get so many important nutrients that way, particularly vitamin C, which is very antiviral and also helps us to cope with stress. Very important for our adrenals that cope with stress. But you've got all other sorts of phytonutrients, antioxidant nutrients. You've got B vitamins to help your nervous system. You've got, in your dark green leafy veg, you've got calcium and magnesium, which are referred to as nature's tranquilizers. So again, very important for your nervous system. So these are the types of foods you want to be basing your diet around. Essential fats from nuts and seeds and their cold pressed oils. We have to take them in from the diet. Our brain is predominantly fat, and we've become very fat phobic over the years, and yet some fat is essential to us, even some saturated fat, but better quality. So things perhaps like virgin coconut oil, that's a form of saturated fat, but one that's better for us. But essential fats, we absolutely have to get through the diet. We cannot manufacture them. So as I say, they're important for our brain, so our mental function, but also very much our hormone system, our skin and immune system, energy, all of that. Protein is also really important, good quality protein. So whether you are a vegan or whether you are a meat eater, protein is still an important consideration because it forms the building blocks for our antibodies for the immune system, our enzymes for our digestive system, for our adrenals, again, to help us cope with stress. So whether you are getting your protein from pulses, from avocados, from quinoa, or whether you're getting it from meat or fish, then that's important to consider, but good quality. So if you are eating meat, then I would encourage you to look for grass-fed. Grass-fed means the cattle is traditionally reared. It's eating grass, which is what it's supposed to eat instead of grain. And it's not going to be pumped full of growth hormones and antibiotics and everything else. And then the same with fish, buying wild fish. Now, if you're looking for a spiritually motivated diet, then your meats, your fish, your dairy products, your refined processed foods, your sugar, these are all going to carry a lower vibration. But I don't believe, as a nutritional therapist, certainly, that it's my place to tell you whether or not you should be vegan or anything else. We are all so different. And I can assure you, over the course of 20 years, I have been looking for the holy grail of nutrition all of that time. And I have come to the conclusion that there just is no one diet for us all. There isn't. We are all unique beings and we have very unique nutritional requirements. So also important to make sure that we are having plenty of fluid in our diet. Dehydration can affect our physical and mental performance. And again, it's going to impact your immune system. So very important to make sure that you are drinking plenty. Sometimes even joint aches and pains can be where toxins have got lodged in the joints, and it's because you're dehydrated. So very important to bear that in mind as well. And we also need to consider our gut health generally, because our gut is referred to as our second brain. And it is so crucial. It's so crucial for our mood and mental state again, as well as for our immune system. So again, if we're basing our diets around healthy whole foods, we're having a lot of fibre, which feeds our beneficial bacteria. We're eating some fermented foods like sauerkraut. We're maybe having some live yogurt in the diet, which contains beneficial bacteria. Then this will all help with maintaining our gut. Excuse me a minute. So moving on, what should we be looking to avoid in the diet? I've already sort of touched on a few things there. Sugar, definitely. Sugar massively affects your immune system. It really depletes your immune function. And it also plays havoc with your blood sugar. So if you've got stress and challenge going on, then you need to keep your balanced blood sugar. If you're suffering with highs and lows in your blood sugar, then you are going to be losing your memory and concentration. You're going to be craving sweet foods or stimulants. You're going to be struggling with energy levels, with your mood generally. So it's important that we look at supporting our blood sugar balance. So sugar really is not necessary in the diet, but I would encourage you as well not to just opt for the artificial sweeteners, because they have their own health implications and they still actually impact on our blood sugar. So it's not good to go there either. If you really struggle, then I would suggest things like xylitol or stevia as alternatives. But if you can work to gradually sort of reduce and get the sugar out, you would be doing yourself a massive favour. Refined foods, basically empty calories. Processed foods, refined foods, again, typically high in sugar, chemical additives and preservatives. They're going to stress your immune system. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you I don't ever have any sort of convenience food. I live in the real world too, but it's all about balance and just getting the balance right. So just making sure, I often talk about diet as being like a bank balance, and all those good foods, all those healthy foods that you're putting in are like deposits into the bank. And then if you're having the odd treat, the odd takeaway, the odd whatever, then that's like withdrawals from the bank. So provided that you're putting in more than you're taking out, then you should be absolutely fine. And what I've found over the years as well is that the more strict and the more rigid you are with your diet, the less likely you're going to stick to it. And it's far better to, let your hair down occasionally and enjoy, it should be a diet for life, not just, sort of anything faddy. And also, through the reading that I did through my husband's journey, through his illness, I came across a book which really pointed out to me as well how we can base even our dietary choices for the wrong reasons. And if you base your dietary choices around fear, then this is still going to lower your vibration. So you could be doing everything right with your diet, but it's not going to have the same impact for you than, if you're basing it around the right reasons. So think of your diet as being like your medicine as well as just your fuel, because let's face it, you can get fuel from eating a sugary donut, but it's not going to do you the same good as if you're eating something healthier for you. But make your choices for the right reasons and do let yourself have the odd treat. And it's the same with things like alcohol, with coffee, with chocolate. In moderation, if you're having quality in moderation, then we've seen the benefits for those. So don't feel that you can't have anything. But be wary of not being fat phobic, but making sure that you avoid things like trans fats and like hydrogenated fats that can be more problematic to us. They're the fats that you should be avoiding in the diet. But again, if your diet is based around natural whole foods, then this shouldn't be a problem because you won't be eating them the same. So moving away from diet, unless there are any questions on diet, I can't see any questions at the moment. So I talked about limiting beliefs, I talked about the importance of mindset, and something that I found really helpful is using affirmations. Now, when I talk about affirmations, I'm talking about using them in a positive sense, yet actually affirmations are anything that we tell ourselves on a regular basis. So it could potentially be a lot of negative self-talk. So if we are always telling ourselves that we can't do something, then the likelihood is we won't even try, because we've sort of formed this belief around it. And yet, because thoughts become our reality, remember that I said that. So the more we're enforcing that, we can't do this, or we're stupid, or we're fat, or whatever it is, the more we say it to ourselves, the more we believe it. But obviously the way we use affirmations properly is to make them positive, to say them in the present tense as if we've already achieved what we want to achieve. So saying, I can do this, or I am doing this, or I have done this, or I am slim and beautiful. Although some will argue that, and particularly I've had with weight loss clients when I've talked about affirmations, and they've really struggled with this, and they said, I can't say that to myself, because the minute I say that to myself, then my brain kicks in and says, no, you're not. No, you're not. So this resistance is put up straight away. So what you can say is either that you're in the process of, so I am in the process of reaching my ideal weight, or that you're not necessarily that you're there yet, but that you will be. So you can use it as I am, or you can say I am in the process of. I've used them both ways, and I found that there's benefit to using them both ways. And once you have affirmations, then you need to be saying them to yourselves regularly, because this is where you're going to help to form those new beliefs. So I have affirmations that I put on my fridge. I have them on a notice board in my office. I sometimes, if I need extra bit of help, I might even put post-it notes on my mirror when I look at the mirror in the morning. Whatever it is, you can even get apps on your phone to remind you to say your affirmations and to bring your affirmations up. But they are really worth incorporating and bringing into your life. So that's one positive tool that you can use. Another thing is tapping, or EFT. Now, I'm not actually an EFT practitioner, so I'm not going to go into that in any great detail, but it's a great way to release limiting beliefs. And again, you can look on YouTube for people like Brad Yates or Nick Altner, and actually follow through with tapping sequences if you don't know what that is. It's just about tapping on acupressure points, which helps to release limiting beliefs. So that's something that you can look into. Another way to help to improve your mindset, to raise your vibration, is to immerse yourself in positive reading, listening to podcasts, surrounding yourself with positive people and empowering and inspiring people, because that all rubs off as well. That's what's so great about this group, is that the community all elevating each other. Your vibe attracts your tribe. So don't hang out with the mood hoovers. Just raise your vibration, and you will find that the happier you are, the more positive you are, you will attract those people to you as well. So that is definitely something, even if you only read a couple of pages of a positive book, at some point during the day, ideally in the morning to sort of set you up for the day, or pop a podcast in if you go out for a walk at some point, again, a positive podcast, that can really help to start shifting those beliefs. I think we're okay for time at the moment. Gratitude is something else that I want to speak about, because gratitude can massively help to raise your vibration and to bring positive things to you again. And there is always something to be grateful for. Now, I will let you into a little secret. I started writing my book last year, and I had just written my chapter on gratitude when everything started to go wrong with my husband. And for a while, I questioned it. I looked back, I thought I couldn't carry on with my writing. I wasn't sure if I actually believed what I'd written. I questioned it. But then once I'd got over sort of that initial shock and managed to get myself back on track, I realised that even in that darkness, there was absolutely still things to be grateful for. In his case, his young age meant that he was, his tests were brought forward more quickly. It wasn't the cancer they initially feared. And also with my background knowledge, I was able to help and support him. So there were so many positives. And as I completed my book, which I actually picked up again through as the lockdown started, and completed it by the time sort of 10, 12 weeks later, and reread that chapter on gratitude. And my husband we've literally just found out that he's in complete and full remission. That is the power of gratitude. So don't think that, you know, even if it's just that you're alive and you're breathing, there is always something to be grateful for. So show it. The more you show your gratitude, the more you'll have to be grateful for. And again, with forgiveness is another one, which some people really struggle with. And again, it's something I've struggled with over the years. But if you're feeling stuck, it could be because you haven't forgiven somebody for something. And it could, of course, again, be yourself. It could be something you're beating yourself up for. But even if it's something somebody else has done, and even if it's something terrible, you're not condoning what they've done. What you're doing is setting yourself free. You're liberating yourself from that situation so that you can move forwards. So bear that in mind. And even if it's something like, writing a letter to the person, you don't give it to them, you just get all your thoughts out, and then you could even burn the letter at the end. Some people like to make a little ritual of it. But that, if you're showing, Creator, you're showing the universe that you're serious, you want to move on, you're ready to move on and leave that behind you. So that can be powerful too. I use essential oils in my business as well. Pure essential oils can also help to raise your vibration. Our sense of smell is actually our most powerful of the senses, well, 5 senses anyway. So they can be very helpful as well. Easily diffused in your work environment around your home, or you can, sort of put some on your hand and just inhale. So that's something easy that you can try. And then just, I think possibly some of the other speakers might go into sort of goal setting, so I'm only going to sort of touch on this, but it's definitely, it's something that I talk about in my book, because again, it's something that I've struggled with. I've either set goals that are too big and too scary, so immediately my ego comes in and says, you'll never be able to do that, never be able to do that. So it puts you off even starting. Or they may not be big enough. You may set goals that aren't big enough, and it doesn't inspire you to actually want to make the changes. But if you do want to make changes, then if you want a different outcome, then you have to be prepared to leave your comfort zone and to make changes. Because if you're continually doing the same things, but expecting a different outcome, well, we all know that's the definition of insanity, as Albert Einstein told us. So, but what's important is to set those big goals, but then to break them down into manageable steps. And I actually give the example of when I was training in karate. And when I first joined karate, which was pretty daunting in itself, I didn't join till I was 40. My family thought I was having a midlife crisis. But, I walked into the class, I saw the black belts, and I was just like in awe. Didn't think for a minute that I could ever be a black belt. But I'd set a goal that maybe I could be a blue belt, which was 3 gradings down the line. I knew exactly how many classes I'd need to do to be able to take that grading. I knew what the syllabus was. I knew all the steps and when I would be able to do that by. And then I did get my blue belt. But by then, I wanted to go further. So with your goals, don't be too strict and rigid on them as well, because they will change as you grow. And so, to cut a long story short, I ended up not only becoming a black belt 5 years after I started, but 2 years after that, I got my second Dan. So don't ever believe you're not good enough. Don't ever believe you can't achieve something, because you can. So I'll sort of finish off with a bit of a summary and give you an example of a day to get you started in the right way, to raise your vibration, to get you in alignment with the day. And first and foremost, I would say set your intention. Set your intention straight away that it's going to be a really good day. then I would encourage you to have some quiet time. So whether it's some meditation, whether it's a bit of mindfulness, whether it's reading quietly, then I would recommend that you do that. Something positive again to uplift you, to get you started for the day. Always encourage you to write some gratitudes, 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for. And again, ideally, as you go to bed. Now, some people like to journal, and if that's the case, I encourage them to do that in the evening. And there's a reason for that. If your day hasn't gone quite to plan, then I tell them to rewrite the script. Why not? No one's going to read your journal. So, but what it's doing, particularly if you're visualizing or you're writing gratitudes or you're journaling positively at the end of the day, then this is what you're going to have in your head as you go off to sleep. So rather than watching the news and all the catastrophes that are going on, or working late into the night and then not being able to switch off, or watching violent films or whatever, so your adrenaline's pumping, you don't want to go to bed with all that churning around in your mind. You want to keep it positive, upbeat, you raising your vibration, going off to sleep, smiling about the great future that you're going to be manifesting and bringing to you. So exercise, as well, as I've said, helps as well. So you might sort of think, oh, that's a lot of things to do in the morning. I'm not going to be able to manage all of that. But like I've said, you could listen to a podcast while you're out walking in nature. So you've cracked your being out in nature, your mindfulness and your exercise all in one fell swoop. So don't overcomplicate it. It can be done. And it's like what I said about the meditation. If you're putting up the resistance that you can't do it, then perhaps it's telling you that actually you need to do it. So be honest with yourself. Wherever you are now, be honest with yourself. What areas that you may need to work on? Is it your diet? Is it your mind? Is it your mindset? Is it more sort of connecting spiritually? Or is it a combination of all of those, which it often is? And then you can use those tools and techniques to help you moving forwards, to move away from any sort of fears and anxiety, but also to boost your immune system moving forward, to increase your resilience to stress and to empower you. So that's really where I am. So I don't know, again, if anybody has got any questions. Okay, there is one here. About coffee. Yes, there is. So the question here is regarding coffee, even in moderation. Is there a better type of coffee to go for? I like to have 1 cup of coffee a day. Coffee is a very, very valuable crop. So it's heavily sprayed with pesticides. So first and foremost, I would say organic coffee would be better for you, and ideally freshly ground coffee. So that would be your best bet. I do have a cup of coffee every day. I make sure it's organic. I have a cafetiere. I make it up in that. That is the best way to go forward. So yes, not all coffee is bad. There have been health properties. There are health properties for coffee, but yes, choosing organic and freshly ground would be your best option there. And 1-2 cups a day, absolutely fine. It's when people are having maybe 6, 7, 8 a day to keep them going, then that's when it becomes not only more negative, but it's also a false perception, because they're just becoming addicted to the stimulant as opposed to it actually really helping. In the long run, it's going to affect their sort of energy levels and their mental capacity. So yeah, I hope that's answered your question there. I think that is the only question. Does anybody else have any questions at the moment?
Yes, I do. I was trying to type it, and then I saw that I was actually typing the message to someone else. So part of the learning. But my question is, what kind of food can we eat during the menopause stage? Because I'm having to kind of look at what I need to be eating. So, you know.
Okay. So menopause specifically, again, keep the diet as near natural as possible. There's foods that have what we call phytoestrogenic properties. So soya. Now soya, there's a bit of controversy over soya because some people will say that's a negative food to eat, but it very much depends on the source of it. Soya has been used very cheaply in foods, in sort of processed foods, and yes, that's not good. But don't be afraid to incorporate things like tofu, tempeh, and soya in its more sort of natural form, if you like. That's fine. That also things like oats, linseeds, fruits and veggies, again, they're all going to have these phytoestrogenic properties. So they will help with the because of the estrogen levels are dropping, these foods can actually help to improve levels. Also important would be your essential fats again. So essential fats are very important for hormone balance. Generally as well, for when I'm thinking about hormones, then I would also be very wary of unnatural estrogens. So we find them in soft plastics. So buying food, particularly things like meat or cheese that's wrapped in cling film, that sort of thing, it can actually leach into our food, and that just causes hormone imbalances even more so. So that's not good. Vitamin E can be very helpful with hormones again. So you'll find vitamin E in oily foods, and so again in nuts and seeds and their oils, in fish. Specifically for menopause, again, herbs like sage, if there's hot flushes, things like that, that can be very helpful. So even using sage in your cooking and that can be helpful. But yes, really it hinges to just keeping the diet as near natural as possible.
Thank you, Debbie. I really appreciate that, and the talk as well. So my head's in two places at the moment, trying to sort out that. I've now seen what the problem was, is that my Chrome crashed. So we'll deal with that later. But getting back to what you've been talking about, that's really good information for everyone. I don't know if you have any other, oh, someone's got a question.
Yeah, so I've just noticed that. Yeah. So cold pressed oils, yes. Now, extra virgin olive oil and extra virgin coconut oil are not considered essential fats. However, I would encourage you to use both in your diet because they do have good health properties. But really, when I talked about cold pressed oils, I was really referring to things like hemp seed oil or sesame seed oil, pumpkin seed oil, these types of oils more to use in foods or as salad dressings, but don't cook with them because the essential oils heat damages them, and then they actually are not healthy for us at all. In fact, the opposite. So if you're going to be cooking, then stick to your extra virgin olive oil, stick to your coconut oil, but the other oils certainly can be beneficial to use, you know, as salad dressings or over food, whatever. Farmed salmon, not really. Again, there have been times when I have eaten farmed salmon because that was all I could get hold of, but it's a bit like battery farmed hens, really. It's not ideal. Something like wild Alaskan salmon would be far better, far richer in nutrients, far richer in those essential fats than farmed salmon would be. But I know myself, it is tricky to get hold of. So you just have to do the best that you can do. And I've also just said about not buying things that's wrapped in plastics. But again, if we're relying on things like wild Alaskan salmon, chances are it's going to be wrapped in plastic. So we can't do everything. We can only do the best that we can do.
We'll all go to the village.
Sorry?
I said we should all go to the villages and live there.
Definitely, yes.
That's not a bad idea.
Yes.
So is anyone else, okay, yeah. Is anyone else there who wants to ask a question? It's been a great talk, actually. Yes, I totally agree. That's Lillian. Lillian said it's a great talk, and you know.
Thank you, Lillian. Thank you.
I just like to say that I found very interesting because the whole thing with I'm quite interested in this, the whole thing with your mental, your spiritual, your physical state and everything. But when it comes to food, and even with those of us that have children, because we've been sold that pyramid diet, right? I think that's what's really affected a lot of people, and that's why the rate of diabetes, a lot of people are pre-diabetic. And I was reading that the first kid with diabetes type 2, the youngest kid with diabetes type 2 is 4 years old, you know. And the other thing about the exercise, the cortisol, the stress, and when you over exercise as well, which is not in mainstream, you know, like when they encourage us to really work out, and the harder you work, the better for you. But these are things that are not mainstream, you know. And I think that I found it quite interesting because I do follow these things, and I just like to know. I think with the fats, sometimes I'm a bit not sure how much of a wide variety of fats that you can have. I know you have like seeds, nuts, and avocado. Then what else? What, you know?
Well, even if you're buying grass-fed meat, even if you are a meat eater and you're buying grass-fed meat, the fat composition in there is far superior to what you'll find in your standard supermarket meat. Yeah. So even you know, I mentioned some saturated fat is important to us, and even specifically thinking about the virus and about, you know, potentially the lung problems that we've been been told about. Saturated fat is essential for the surface of the lungs to improve the gaseous exchange. But you're right with the food pyramid and with the whole fat thing. We're still being given the wrong advice, the wrong information. And the food pyramid, really, the old dated food pyramid should be shifted the other way, because this, you know, constantly being told we should base our diet around all the cereals and grains, it is just ludicrous. And yes, I do believe that that is fueling things like obesity, like diabetes, because we just don't need to be eating that sort of level of the cereals and grains. That bottom tier should be your fruits and vegetables, more so vegetables.
The kids, their diet is terrible because they're following the pyramid, and that's what they feed them in school.
And it is such a shame. There should be more up-to-date. It should start at schools. It should start at schools where people are educated. But even just very recently, there was a massive health study, and again, it went in the favour of what they've always been doing. Well, we know it's not working. You've just got to see the rise in all these sort of those health problems to know that the current diet advice is wrong. And the clients that I've had that are so fat phobic, and they're going to slimming clubs where they're told they can eat as much pasta as they absolutely want till it's coming out of their ears. And it's like, no, you can't. Sugar will convert into fat if you're not burning it all up for energy. So, yeah, massively need to re-educate people.
Okay. So thank you, Debbie. This has been absolutely amazing information. And I'm so happy that we're recording all this, because then we can get, you know, to go back, go over it again. I'm going to put it in the group. Now, like I said, inviting you, I knew that, you know, you've got a lot of information to share with the group. You've been one of the early people in the group, so you know how Women Elevating Women works. I just want to say a really big thank you for taking out the time. And I've seen your journey, especially online, especially with your husband, and just seeing the support that you've given him. You know, sometimes we don't know why some people come into our lives, but that's part of it, making sure he's eating well and all that. Because, you know, if you leave it to them, they would, you know, like my kids and all, they will eat anything from the can, you know, without wanting to eat healthy. But I just want to say a really big thank you to everyone. If you do still have any questions, Debbie's part of the group. Every single speaker that's on this first conference are already members of the group. So you can find them in the group, you can reach out to them and ask them questions. So a really big thank you. All right then.
Thank you too. Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, you are welcome. So next we're gonna have Caris, but before we have Caris, we are just gonna do, I'm gonna put Lillian on the spot. I'm going to put Lillian on the spot. Lillian, get us up to just do a little stretch because we've been sitting down.
Oh my goodness.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Oh,
I'm
I
putting you
haven't
on.
got the space.
No, whether it's raising our hands, it's not even kind of really getting out of it because I haven't got the space either. But I'm just going to move
Oh, okay.
a little bit, and then
Okay.
for us to just stand up or carry.
But still, yeah, let me stand up.
So I'm going to stand up as well because, like, oh my God.
Okay, so everybody stand up. You can't see my lower half, so.
Yeah.
But what we're going to do is we're going to raise our arms up above our
Carry up
heads.
my laptop.
Really reach
Yeah,
up. We've had a good talk from Debbie. Thank you very much, Debbie. So as we're stretching,
Oh my gosh, I
think
need that.
about all the good things, all the points that she raised. What is the one thing that you're going to do this weekend? And then relax. And take a deep breath in again and reach up. And this time you're going to lean over to the right side, your right.
Where's the right? This way?
Your right side, that's it.
Okay.
And come center and lean over to the left side, your left. That's it. And open up arms wide. Bring the arms around you and give yourselves a hug. Excellent. And then shake it out. Shake out your shoulders. Shake out your head. Shake out your arms, your hands. How do we feel?
Honestly, I needed that. I'm moving to your place tonight.
At least you got me to stand up. I'll stay standing up.
No, I needed to stand up. I was getting a little tiny bit of stress. You know, the stress of you managing the group. And then my Chrome crashed.
Same with me, the stress and everything with technology. I'm just like, what's going on?
No, it literally crashed. And the only way I can do it now is to close the whole laptop. So we're going to do today's session and I'll sort it out tomorrow. And that's the fun of doing something for the first time. I'm not even feeling, I'm not feeling stressed about it because I would not make this mistake, or I won't say it wasn't a mistake because, Chrome crashed, I don't work for them, but it wouldn't have happened this way if I'm not trying it out. Isn't it, Marianne, as we said, today? If I'm not doing this today, then it won't crash. I won't have the story to say. I remember when I did the first online conference and Chrome crashed. That's part of the story. It would not crash if I didn't, put it out there. And that's the real message that I want people to take away today, is that anyone can do it. And you are either getting support in the group and say, I want to put on an online conference talking about what did you do? Or is there anyone here that's got any kind of stuff that we can use? So, so that's the way it works. So I just want to say a big thank you to Debbie. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lillian. I needed that stretch. And Marianne, my co-host, thank you.